So in this video, we are going to try getting the data from the data table that we have just created in the previous video and then add it into an array and then save that array in BP save game. And then we are going to spawn the characters in the store level using the data that we have just created in the array. So the first thing that we are going to do is open up the content drawer, and then over here we are going to open the store game mode over here. So open it up, and if you were to open the store game mode for the first time, you might see a different view over here. So in the previous videos I kind of already showed you how to fix that. And over here what we are going to do is create a new variable. So click on the plus icon over here, and then we are going to create a string for the slot name. So call this store slot name, and then make sure to click on the data type over here and then choose string. So over here I'm just going to drag the event tick down below and then drag out the begin play execution pin and then type does save game exist. Alright, and then drag the store slot name. We are going to get the get store slot name over here, connect the variable pin over here. So after that, drag out the return value of this node and then search for branch. And then from the true pin, I'm going to drag out and then type load game from slot. And then I'm going to drag the store slot name over here and get the value again. So connect it to the slot name over here, and from the false pin I'm going to create a reroute node, and from the reroute node drag out and type create save game object and click on the drop down box over here and then select BP save game. And from the load game from slot I'm going to drag the return value and then type cast to BP save game, and then I'm going to promote this to a variable and I'm going to leave the name as it is, so it is as BP save game. And then I'm going to drag out this as BP save game and select set as BP save game and connect the execution pin and the return value to this set over here. And then we are going to connect both of these nodes to the sequence node, just like this. And now over here we need to add another pin over here. So click on the add pin button over here, and then from the first pin I'm going to drag out and type branch. And then after that go to the content browser, go to blueprints and open up the BP save game blueprint over here. And over here I am going to click on the plus icon over here, and then I'm going to name this boolean is dt saved. Alright, so I'm going to call this is dt saved. Alright, compile this, save this, and I'm just going to leave it over here. Alright, so make sure it's compiled, because we are just going to get a reference of that variable that we just created over here over in the store game mode over here. So drag the as BP save game and then search for is dt saved. Alright, so we are going to get the value. And then again, do want to mention this, in the default value make sure that the is dt saved is false. Alright, so by default it should be false, but in case it isn't, make sure to set it as false. And then back over here in the store game mode, connect the is dt saved to the branch node. So I'll explain later why we are using the is dt saved variable over here. So for now we are just going to ignore it. So I'm going to go over to the branch node over here, drag the true pin out and then type print string, and then click on this arrow button over here, and it should open up a bunch of settings over here for our print string. And for this I'm just going to change the color to yellow, I guess, and increase the duration to 5 seconds, I suppose. And then on the in string over here, I'm going to type the data table has already been saved in the array. So this is just a message for us to know if the data table has already been saved or not. So it's mainly for debugging purposes, but I'm just going to add this over here so that when we are developing or if we are trying to fix a bunch of bugs in the game, it's going to be a lot more easier if we have these kind of messages popping up on our screen. And then over in the false pin over here, I'm going to drag this out and then type get data table row names. And over here we have the drop down box for the table. Click it and then select store characters DT. Alright, so this node is going to get the row names out of the data table. So in our case it is the store characters data table, and it's going to output each of the row names in that data table. And using those row names, we are going to try getting the data from the data table onto an array. Alright, so after you're done creating this node, drag out the execution bin and then type for each loop. Connect the out row names to the array input pin in the for each loop. So after this, drag out the execution pin of the loop body and then type get data table row. And in the data table pin over here, click on the drop down box and then select the store characters DT. And after that, connect the array element to the row name over here. And then we need to now create an array. So click on the plus icon over here and we will call this store characters. Change the data type to store characters structure. Right, so this is the store characters struct. We are going to choose this as the data type for our store characters array over here, and it's not yet an array. To make this variable an array, click on the drop down box over here for this icon and then choose array. So now we have a store characters array that will be storing data related to the store characters, that is the data in our data table, onto our store characters array over here. So after you have done this, go to the content roller and then go back to blueprints. In here, open up the BP save game blueprint, and we're going to do the same thing over here as well. So click on the plus icon, and this time we will call this SaveG store characters. Once again, change the data type to store characters. Right, so store characters structure or struct, and then change this variable into an array and compile this. And then over here under default value, click on the plus icon, and then we are going to add a default value to this. Alright, so click on the eSport, set the character name as male runner. Alright, so the data over here must be the same as what you have added on to the data table. So this is going to be the default value in our game. So go to the store characters, choose male runner, and for the game characters, choose child BP male runner. So this variable is the variable that we are going to store the store character array information onto in our save game. So all modifications and changes to our store character array will be modified over into our save game as well, so that this data can be used in the other levels. Alright, so for example, so if you purchase the female runner, then we will update the SaveG store characters over here to reflect that changes, so that the next time when you open the store level, you won't have to really purchase the female runner once again. Alright, and that is the reason why we have a SaveG store characters array variable in our save game. And the reason why we are using a default value over here is because if you don't open up the store level, then the store game mode over here won't be executed. And that means we won't be able to retrieve the data in the data table and add it on to the save G store characters over here. So that means when you first run the game without going to the store level, there won't be a character for the player to play with, and it will most likely result in bugs and errors. But if you have a default value, then the player doesn't need to open the store level first before opening the game level. Hence, you can avoid this bug by having a default value. So if you try playing the game without going to the store level and selecting a character, then you will still be able to play the game. After you've done this, click on compile and save. And then we can close this. We don't really need this anymore. But once again, I do want to remind you, make sure that the data that you have given over here is the exact same as the data that you have added onto the data table. All this data over here should be the same as what you have given over here. Alright, so close it up. And after that, drag the row found execution pin over here, type add array, and the add function over here should be under the array section over here. Alright, so you can see over here, click on the add. So again, make sure that you do this for the array pin. Alright, so after you have created the store characters array, drag this. So we are going to get the store characters array and then connect it to the add array over here. And after that, drag the completed array from the for each loop and create a reroute node. And then drag the SVP save game. Once again, we're going to get the value and then drag from the SVP save game and then type isdt saved. So we're going to get the set isdt saved variable over here and then connect the execution pin and then make sure to set the isdt saved as true. And after that, drag the execution pin of isdt saved and then search for set save G store characters. Alright, so make sure to choose the save G store characters and then we're going to get the store characters and then connect it to the save G store characters like this. So we are adding the data that is in the store characters and setting that value over to the save G store characters over here. And then make sure to get the SVP save game, our save game reference, and connect it to the target pin like this. So back to our sequence node, drag the one pin over here, create a reroute node. Alright, make sure to drag this away from the other nodes so they don't really clash with each other. And then drag from the execution pin of that reroute node and then search for save game to slot. Alright, and once again get the SVP save game reference, connect it to the save game object over here, and we are also going to get the store slot name over here, get the value and add it to the slot name over here, and then drag the return value and search for branch. And after that, drag from the false pin and search for print string. Click on the arrow button over here. I am going to choose a red color, increase the duration to 10 seconds, and then the in-string input pin over here, I am going to type could not save game to slot in store game mode. So the reason why we have this is, again, this is a good practice to have. So in case something goes wrong in your logic or in your blueprints, you will have these types of warnings in the output log, and then through this you can pinpoint the issue that is preventing the save game to work properly. Alright, so this is something like a quality of life addition, so it's not really necessary, but it's a nice practice to have. in case something in your logic goes wrong. And that's it for this video. In the next part, we are going to continue adding the logic needed to spawn the characters into our level and improve the way our camera moves between each character. So yeah, thanks a lot for watching and see you later. Bye.